Our good friend Riley Gaines, who obviously she knows this area very well, up in Gallatin Way. She was in Nashville recently. You know the backstory. She swam for the University of Kentucky, was a wonderful swimmer there. Eventually came to national prominence because, sadly, the NCAA allowed a transgender athlete to compete against her and to get on the podium with her and to speak on some recent things that she's got going on and her continued fight on Title IX. We welcome back to the show Riley Gaines. Riley, how are you? Hope you're well.
Hey, Matt. I'm doing fantastic, and I'm glad to be on with you.
You are the busy. I mean, I love how busy you are. I mean, I hate it and I love it. I wish you weren't this busy because I wish we had all of this nonsense behind us, but I'm so happy that you're out there fighting the good fight. I bet 2 years ago you would have never predicted this for yourself, right?
No way. How could I have? This is never, of course, never a position that I imagined myself personally in, but just never a stand that I would have thought it would be necessary for anybody, never mind. I mean, I would say a large factor in the presidential debate. Do we have a president who can clearly and confidently differentiate the biological differences between men and women? I mean, what a time to be an American, because the president in the White House right now cannot. That is where we are at as a nation, and it's terrifying to say the least.
I saw somewhere, and I forget which interview you was doing, because I mean you're everywhere, and I love it. I love it for the state of Tennessee. I love it for the cause, and you're such a wonderful spokesperson. But I think you said that. I mean, how controversial was your statement that men and women are different? I mean, that was basically what started all of this for you, right?
Boom. That's it. That's my whole shtick. I'm like a one-trick pony. That's it. Boys and girls are different. But for that, it sounds insane, but for that, I mean, I've been met with, of course, the name-calling, the petty personal attacks, but I mean violence in many instances. I've been spit on. I've had drinks poured on me, glass bottles thrown at me. I've been quite literally in San Francisco, which is probably no surprise to anyone, especially after we saw the San Francisco Pride Parade this week. But I mean, in San Francisco, I was kidnapped and held for ransom for hours throughout the middle of the night by these trans rights activists. But along with that, along with the negative, the support that I've received for merely saying men and women are different has been overwhelming. There are so many people out there who, I mean, just your common sense, everyday Americans who intuitively know that men and women are different. That's been just overwhelming. So that's why we do it.
You recently were a part of the Independent Women's Forum here in Nashville, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us about that event.
No, you're right. We just capped off. Nashville was our last stop of the Take Back Title IX bus tour. And so, Matt, I mean, we literally had a bus, a large bus with my face on it. And that is scary. That is a thing of nightmares. I had the exact opposite reaction than Kamala Harris when she saw her face on the bus, because I was petrified. But really, it's exactly what it sounds like. We have gone from border to border, coast to coast, traveling the nation. These past 30 days, I've been in 30 different states, speaking to the importance of Title IX, of maintaining Title IX, the federal civil rights law that at one point prevented discrimination on the basis of sex and in any educational program that receives federal funding. And I say at one point because we have an administration in the White House right now who has illegally rewritten Title IX. They rewrote it. Rewritten? That was my Tennessee education coming through. I don't even know if rewritten is a word.
I think that's right. I think you're right. You're right on. You're good. You're good.
Rewrote Title IX, created a new proposal from this 37 words, drafted a new rollout that is almost 500,000 words, which abolishes sex-based protections for women and for men, for that matter. And so just shedding light on this, reminding people why this is fundamentally important, whether you have a daughter or not, whether your daughter plays sports or not, whether you're old, young, man, woman, white, black, regardless of any identity factor, why this should matter. Because if we have a president who, again, cannot say on public record that men and women are different, actually I'll go further, who says on public record that men and women are the same, interchangeable, it's synonymous, gender identity and sex, then his credibility, that's the word I'm looking for, has been entirely compromised on every single topic.
Well, and not to nerd out too much on this, but this ruling, and I don't know if you guys have gotten into it on the tour or thought about it, but the Chevron case decision, which says that the executive branch of government can't just define new terms and decide for themselves that they're going to kind of rewrite legislation passed by Congress. I think it's going to have a tremendous impact on Title IX, because I think someone should immediately challenge how the Biden administration has rewritten Title IX and say, no, that wasn't the intent. The obvious intent of Congress when they passed Title IX was to protect women in women's sports, and now the Biden administration is destroying all of that.
Precisely. And not even just Title IX. We have seen this anti-woman, really anti-reality pursuit from the Biden administration and the Democratic Party in their elected capacity across the board. We've seen it in prisons, where now they reinterpret this word to mean what they want it to mean: man, woman, girl, boy, male, female, mother, father. And they're allowing inmates, male inmates, who are convicted of heinous sexual crimes, including rape. They're allowing these men into women's prisons, which sounds awesome to a rapist, and they're getting in there and they're impregnating these women. And these are women who have a past of most of the time of domestic violence, and that's what they're run from in many instances. We've seen it in sororities where males have been infiltrating into female sororities. At the University of Wyoming, they let a 6'2", 260-pound man into the Kappa Kappa Gamma house, terrorizing these girls. These girls were promised sisterhood, and they got the brother they never wanted. Again, all at the hands of these federal judges who have become activists. They're not judges, let's be very clear. They're activists advancing their cause, and at the hands of the Biden administration.
We've got a lot of people reacting to you being on the show, Riley, through our membersnutrition.com text line. And one person asked me to ask you this question. You made reference to what happened to you out in, I guess it was California, when you were essentially held hostage for a period of time. Did anybody ever go to jail for any of that?
That would imply that the justice system is not two-tiered.
I like the giggle. That's pretty funny. It's like, come on, guys.
Of course not. You know what? They actually got back to me recently, the police department did, and they said there was no evidence anywhere to charge anyone. They couldn't charge the individual students who quite literally, I was being punched in the face by these men who were wearing dresses, which fortunately for me, their punches don't really hurt that bad. The police department, who failed at their most basic duty in ensuring my safety. When we were locked in this room for 4 or 5 hours throughout the middle of the night, the police were locked in there being held for ransom with me. And I'm looking at the officers, hour 2, 3, can't you do something? Can't you get me out of here? I don't want to be here. No, actually we can't. We're not allowed to do anything because we're not allowed to be seen as anything other than an ally to that community, or else we'll lose our jobs. Again, the same community who's on the other side of the door, calling these officers racist pigs for protecting a white girl like me. They didn't hold the school accountable, the school who sent out a university-wide email to the entire student body, to faculty, professors the next day that said, we are so proud of our brave students for handling Riley Gaines in the manner that they did. We know how deeply traumatic her presence is on this campus, and so here are some counseling resources for you guys. Take the day off of school. Just know we see you, we hear you, we love you, and we stand with you. And so all of that to say, no one was charged. They actually vilified me in the process.
How does it feel? And I know that just in the times that I've had an opportunity to meet you and talk with you, you don't feel like this is about you, and that's why you resonate with so many people across America. It's about the young girls that are growing up that deserve to have the same opportunities as you had leading up to your time at the University of Kentucky. But you're in the same boat with like Martina Navratilova, the great tennis star, who argues in a very similar fashion the way that you do. It's a few people that have been vilified. J.K. Rowling across the pond with her activism against this concept that transgenders have some sort of specialty rights above and beyond the rights of others. There's a small group of people, and you're among them, that are willing to speak out, willing to speak truth to power. Are you reflecting on that, or do you have time for any of that?
No, definitely. While I would say there are few prominent figures, people like J.K. Rowling, who has really so much to lose in doing what she's done. People like Martina, both of these women actually historically, I mean, they would call themselves lifelong liberals.
Right. Right.
While there are very few prominent figures, again, we speak for 95% of Americans. I would argue 99% of Tennesseans at that. So knowing that, it allows us to be secure. It allows us to be confident. It allows us to have a smile on our face while we take the heat, take the arrows, at least speaking for me. So the support is there, and again, from a biblical perspective, and knowing that, while yes, we're definitely standing for objective truth, as a Christian myself, more importantly, standing for biblical truth, and just knowing that the battle has already been won, that is all the reassurance that I need. Our Bible is very clear in saying that there are male and female created intentionally and uniquely in his perfect image, and to alter that or to deny that that's who God created you to be is an attempt to play God, which we know how that turns out. And so that allows me to stand firm, unwavering, really, and unapologetic.
I mean, above and beyond the rest of the politics of all of this, is it as simple as getting some sanity back in the White House and back into the halls of Congress to make sense of what the mangling that Joe Biden has done with Title IX? Is it just that easy for folks? What's your message to the people that want to do more? What can we do?
Well, yes, I certainly do believe that needs to be restored. Common sense. It's wild to me. I saw a clip of Senator Kennedy, a sitting U.S. senator, explaining to other sitting U.S. senators the physical differences between boys and girls. And I sit there and look at that, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, this is what our taxpayer dollars are going to. This is insane. So, yes, we do need common sense restored down in D.C., the swamp, but at every level. We need it at local levels, at the school board. We need it at the state level. We've got people in office here in our state with an R by their name, mind you. Okay, people think, oh, it's Tennessee. We don't have to worry. We're safe here. That would be your first mistake. And assuming that this isn't happening here because we're in Tennessee. That could not be further from the truth. I would argue that we're most susceptible, these conservative states, we are most susceptible to the infiltration of the gender ideology movement, to the sexually explicit books in schools, to the dismantling of parental rights, and to the dismantling of women's rights, and ultimately the ability to get rid of maintaining innocence for children. And so what we can do as everyday people is, one, defend your kids. It's really that simple. I have so many parents who will reach out to me and say, thank you for doing what you're doing, because I can't defend my daughter because I work in corporate America. What a coward you are. Do I have to care about your kids more than you do? What a sad reality. That's not to say I don't think that the threats and risk exist. Of course they do. But at what point are you willing to ensue the risk? And if it's not for your kids, then what is the hill you're willing to die on? So defend your kids, teach your sons how to be strong men. I think that's another reason why we are a nation in decline, is because we are governed and led by weak men across the board. Corporate America, academia, the government, the media, even seemingly our spiritual leaders have become weak. They don't want to touch these topics that are deemed controversial. Well, I want to say it is not controversial to say that women and men serve safety.
No, I mean, and it's common sense. And sadly, we have U.S. Supreme Court justices sitting on the bench that can't make the distinction between male and female. But thankfully, we have people like you that are leading the charge with the Independent Women's Forum and other organizations doing just that. And we are just blessed to have you from right here in the state of Tennessee. Riley, thank you so much. I would be remiss if I didn't say that Belle K wants to see you in studio next time you're on. So, you got to do what you got to do.
Best.
Come on. All right.
You guys are the best.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
All right. See you soon. There's Riley Gaines joining us for a few good moments as she continues her independent way. I got it in, Belle, right at the end there.
I honestly think that's the most famous woman who's ever lied to me.
You think?
Yeah, she ain't coming in here.
Oh, come on.
It's not going to happen.
You've had plenty of famous people lie to you.
Oh, well, yeah.
Musicians.
Yeah, but I
mean, Riley's right up there, but I mean, you've had surely, you've had conversations with, the Bangles or
No. I'm trying to think if Alanis Morissette ever lied to me. I don't think she did.
How sad is it that the first female musician that I thought of was the Bangles?
I think Louise from Veruca Salt probably lied to me.
What? Veruca Salt?
Yeah.
As in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah, that's where they got their name.
Oh, wait, there's a band named Veruca Salt?
God, you're so out of it.
What?
You're so not hip.
Violet, you're turning violet, Violet. You're right. It didn't bother me. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It never bothered me when I realized I was no longer cool. It did bother me a little bit when I realized I never was.